Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 30. Wow. 30 already. It feels like I just started the series. Time flies when you do something you enjoy. Anyways, today we will do a couple things that are both big and small. 3 main items come to mind. First is the promised paint jobs for the new trucks. Second will be the redrawing of the main junction at the new industrial area. I wasn't happy with it, so it had to be done. And lastly, we will start planning a new town. It will be a couple episodes before it's fully functional. Today is only about placing the rough outline. It's been the most requested thing in the comments, and we finally reached the point where it's actually a sensible decision to start building one. The main problem with Mutagrad was that it's a mainly bus-based town. The new one will be built around trains from the start. First things first, I want to remove the current rails before the track layers waste any more materials on it. Thankfully, only one branch got built, so the losses will be minimal. Unfortunately, both the high and medium voltage power lines are in the way to make the tracks nice and orderly. They need to be moved once more. But first, I will need to stop workers from going to the old rail CO. It's just a matter of removing it as a destination from the border bus stop. So, as I said, we will need to temporarily remove these wires. Unfortunately, they are in the exact worst positions to make these tracks come straight out of the stations. I'd rather build the power poles around the tracks, instead of building the tracks around the power poles, if you know what I mean. This will take a lot of trial and error, so please bear with it while I fiddle around with the plans. This particular crossing was the bane of my existence while trying to make this junction work. But we will get there in the end. Okay, the crossing is more or less where I want it to be. Now that's an arrangement I can live with. Not perfect, but it gives off a way more organized feeling than it did before. These 3 tracks are a tiny bit wonkier than I'd like, and fortunately for us, replacing them is not going to cause any further problems. Finally. Just be glad you got to sit through it in fast forward. I had to do it in real time. Anyways, I'm happy with the results, much more organized than before. Plus, this time it was done with non-electrified tracks first, so construction should be faster than it would have been originally. Now, the biggest mistake I'll make in this episode is the fact that I will fail to change the search distance for the rail construction office to the maximum of 4.5 kilometers. My only excuse is that I got used to the old one already having this option turned to the maximum, and I didn't even notice it until near the end. Anyways, with the tracks laid out, we can redraw the power lines. Plus we get to remove this one pole that got placed too close to the other one. And finally, a high voltage line. Here's hoping this is the last time we need to do this. If only I noticed that search being set to 1,500 meters. I could have saved myself so many clicks. And the materials ran out inches away from completion. I really hate when that happens. Next, the new truck paint jobs. There were a few available for this model on the workshop. I just grabbed the most popular ones. They included skins for all sorts of organizing bodies from communist Hungary. The EPFU was the construction-related haulage organization, TEFU was for general heavy cargo haulage. There are also skins for Volon, which is a goods and people transportation business, while Hungarokomian was a company dealing with cross-border haulage. I will try to match the different skins wherever possible to the role of the vehicle, but if I can, I will choose the skins that don't have the letter and logos on the side. For the fabric factory imports, I chose the Volon branded TEFU skin, since it's a production-based cargo route. I also decided to repaint the fridge trucks, using vanilla colors. They are hauling meat, so painting them red seemed fitting. Now, the construction vehicles. There were a lot of options here. The author of the mod was very thorough about it. There were both EPFU and TEFU options available, as well as unbranded variant. Ultimately, I decided to use the unbranded blue versions. Had I decided to download these skins before I bought the trucks would have saved me so many clicks here. For the covered hull trucks, I had no choice but to use branded versions. Since these vehicles are for construction, I will use the EPFU logo on the side. Thankfully, one of those had a blue variant, so it matched the other trucks we already painted. Also, the new Dacia personal cars were just released. I was asked if I would consider buying a police version of it. Since it's brand new, and I already downloaded the assets for it, might as well replace 2 of the old police cars. Now that we have new skins, we can replace the old mixers too. Unlike its other variants, the concrete mixer model of the Komatsu 5410 doesn't have the biggest cargo space. But it's still the fastest, so that might offset the slightly smaller capacity. And lastly, the fuel trucks. I'll just use the first option available. That was the one I liked the most. And that should take care of the new vehicle paint jobs around the Republic. Oh right. I almost forgot about the Rail CO supply trucks. I might as well sell these tankers too. Fuel is now dealt with by dedicated offices, and bitumen is handled by train. As for the colors, I think I'll use orange for these guys. Now, the new town I mentioned in the intro. Today, we will only place a couple service buildings, deal with the general road layout, and connect it all up to the road and rail network. The only thing that gets built today will be the beginnings of the incoming roads. Just so you know what to expect. I chose this locations because of its vicinity to these 2 lakes. I'd like to move towards helicopter-based fire safety. Plus we can use them for beaches later, which will serve the sports needs of our citizens, and it will also act as a tourist attractions, should we ever decide to build an industry around foreign visitors. The upper right-hand corner is right on the current maximum range for our bulldozers, which means that when we start building the surrounding industries, we might need to add a second construction yard somewhere nearby. We have a few options for road access. We can use the farm's road connection to the south. But for today, we will only use the road that is currently only going to the oil fields. Okay. Let's start with the basics. A nice and simple crossroads, which will serve as the center for the town. I use the grid as reference for spacing, very handy to make things look organized. Now the buildings. Instead of a cinema, I decided to use tourist buildings for satisfying the need for culture. For now, a national theater will do it. For now, I'll only place the central heat exchanger. I still need to work out how I will bring coal to the local heating plant. I will build a complete hospital right away. I learned my lesson about using smaller alternatives in an ever-expanding town. Of course, a kindergarten is a must. We will also need a school. For now, a small university will do. How we will expand higher education will depend on the situation at the time. We might replace it with a vanilla building, or we might build another one. Who knows? Now, the central train station that will serve as the beating heart of the city. This is what all the commuter lines will be built around. As we expand the city, bus stops will be added to the roads, where people will be picked up, and then dropped off at the train station for transfers. I hope to avoid the same mistake I made with the first town, by relying on long-range buses, instead of trains. We will of course need a shopping center. When we finish with the current layout, there will be enough room to squeeze in the bigger shopping mall, but I'm not sure I'll use it. It's about twice as big as the small one, but employs slightly less retail workers than two of those. We might be better off using more of the small shops instead of a few of the big ones. As for sports, the obvious choice is still the indoor pool. We are not yet at the point where we could place a beach facility. Since the new update, a police station is also necessary. This time, I think I'll build the vanilla one. Then we need a secret police to see the loyalty of our citizens. Incidentally, I kind of wish this mechanic had a different building. It would be kind of cool if we could build an unassuming building, and then designate it as a secret police HQ. Obviously, we will also need a place for trains to drop off any consumer goods that will be distributed around town with trucks. I place it close to the passenger station, so it will be easier to merge the two lines. I should have finalized the roads at this point. I will regret not doing so in a minute. You know what's coming, don't you? Instead of heavy train traffic constantly blocking the roads, we will build an overpass. That of course means we need spacers on the sides of the main tracks. Without those, the ground would inevitably clip through the rails. This way, it will still happen, but only for the two outer lanes, leaving the middle ones nice and clean. Not high enough yet. That's better, we can work with this height. And that's why you always finalize your constructions once you are happy with them. Oh well, it shouldn't be too hard to redraw those roads. Good thing I was following the grid, it makes finding the original lines a bit easier. Oh right. We still have some footpaths left over. These connections are too close to each other and they keep overriding the road for snapping. No big deal, we can delete one of the buildings, connect the roads, and then replace it. Problem solved. Okay. Let's finalize it now before I accidentally delete it all again. We have considerably less space for this bridge than usual. I will still attempt to make the ramps and connections as smooth as possible, but it won't be 100% perfect. The ramp looks good, but that dip going onto the bridge is a bit weird. A bit steep, but I can live with that. I think we can extend the terrain leveling a bit further to make this incoming track less awkward. Still didn't notice the main issue with the rail CO. In fact, I only noticed it after the recording was already over. First thing I'll fix in the next episode. The tracks will run on the lower ground, while the road connection will use the high ground. The trains won't stand a chance. And that's all the current rail connections taken care of. We will still need to change a couple things, mostly to deal with the coal deliveries for the heating plant, but since we don't even know where it will be, I'm not bothered too much about it right now. You might have seen that the dirt was clipping through the tracks there. We need to redraw them a bit. This little plateau is a bit smaller than I'd like, so the final road will droop a bit. It might be a better idea to simply remove the warehouse temporarily, while I'll sort out the slopes. Something to consider for the next episode. And the rails got buried again. It's not an exact science, I'm also going by the seat of my pants. I'm not happy with that crooked slope near the police station. I'll need to delete it, change the terrain, and then replace it once more. That's better. We will also need to extend the asphalt roads up until the intersection that will lead to the town. Once again, things are getting too far away from the town, and constructions are unreachable by automatic assignments. A couple clicks will fix it. Except, it doesn't in this case. As it turns out, the road upgrades along the oil access road is blocking the bus routes. No problem, we are not ready to start production yet anyways. Okay, about this junction here. It will require a bit of extra acrobatics to make it work. The tracks that will turn towards the town won't have any problem getting built, but the other side going towards the oil field will require a turnaround. Just bear with me, normally I'd be able to do this no problem, but the proximity of the road was throwing off my mojo. I promised myself that I will only ever quick build the crossings for the sake of constructions. The turnaround tracks still need to be manually built. Speaking of the turnaround, I'm not sure if a single track would have been enough. The crossing might have made it so, but I still prefer to be on the safe side, and not deal with stuck track layers due to unforeseen issues with the track arrangement. I will make it double tracked in a second. But first, I need to keep ignoring the distance setting on the rail office. The road is a straightforward T intersection, so no fancy things going on there. Although, if the traffic ever gets too busy, we might need to add another overpass. I might even make the rail go over the road this time, just to mix things up a little. I know it's aggravating to watch. Believe me, I was just as annoyed with myself when I finally discovered what the issue was. This is where I decided to finally double-track the turnaround. Once again, I'm relatively confident that with the crossing, a single lane would have been enough. Still, better safe than sorry. Don't worry. It will be over soon. I just need to stop worrying about the closeness of the road, and be more bold with the radius of my turns. There. A golden rule about making tight turns with double track rails is that you only need to make one of the tracks work. After that, the second one will attach itself to the first like magic, allowing turns that are narrower than what the default track laying allows. The inner lane of that turnaround segment is a tighter turn than the outer one, and the radius on that one was already the smallest allowed by default. You can do this a couple times to make incredibly tight turns. It will look extremely silly, but you can still do it. With the roads mostly upgraded already, we can finally tell the office in the town to start moving workers to the power cable construction. And here is the next area named after one of you. This time, it is from Master 1941, who wanted me to name the new industrial sector Ramosov. Okay, that should take care of all the tracks here. The thing is, I was annoyed by this, but I didn't want to play detective, and hunt for the small thing that I missed that was causing the problem. I doubt it would make for a riveting viewing experience. But as I said, after the recording was over, I did manage to find the cause of the issue, and will be the first thing I fix in the next episode. And that's the power taken care of. The last thing we need is to finish building the tracks, then electrify them, and we can at long last start producing bricks, cement, and prefab panels domestically. For a little bit, I will use workers from Mutograd, but once the new town is up and running, we will use the citizens from there instead. By the way, the name for that place is already reserved. Just FYI. Anyways, while I was checking on the rail CO, I noticed that it was struggling with gravel deliveries. So another dumper should take care of that problem. It also needs a lot of steel, so maybe using 40% of the internal storage just for that might not be the worst idea. I think from this point on, I will mostly just going to wait around for these tracks to be finished. After that, I will designate them to be electrified, and only then will I finish the episode. If anything interesting happens, I will chime in, but this last 5-ish minutes will be a bit sparse in terms of commentary. One branch left to go. Here's hoping that we can do this remaining segment with a single trip. Finally. Let's electrify them, so we can finally start reaping the benefits of our hard work. I think I will temporarily pause construction on these tracks. They aren't important right now. It would be best if we put all our effort into placing the catenaries around Ramesov. Since it's winter, I wanted to close things out by making sure that people aren't freezing to death, and things seem to be going relatively okay these days. We are close to the end, so let's see what's in store for next time. First thing we will need to take care of immediately is the auto-assigned distance for the new rail construction office. That will finally fix the issues I've been having with the track layers in this episode. We will also need to further increase the frequency of signals around the immediate vicinity of the town passenger station. Once we start running more trains, going towards Ramesov, we will need the extra queuing space. I think I will also add a ring around the new town using dirt roads. This will allow us to tackle the project from all angles, allowing us to use the full force of our construction infrastructure. I will also tinker a little bit more with that bridge I was messing around with earlier in this episode. I think a viaduct style construction will look better there. Plus I know there are a few minor things I need to fix with the roads around it, namely a very noticeable dip on the segment leaving the area. We can also keep adding new buildings. We will need a heating plant nearby. For that, I think the incoming road will do the trick. 800 meters away from that central heat exchanger should be fine. I don't plan on placing too many apartment blocks around that area. For fire safety, I think I will add a second helipad to the firehouse in Satsumigrad. In my tests, I had a couple issues where certain fires in Ramosov would only be slowed down by a single helicopter, but two would be able to deal with them. So we need two, and they will also take care of the new town. I think it won't hurt if we also add a fuel station to the area. The local vehicles will have their own reserves in their home bases, but for visiting drivers, it could be necessary. We will also need a transformer at the edge of town for power, and having a road maintenance depot would also be beneficial. Anyways, I hope you liked the video. If you did, dropping a like and subscribing to the channel just might motivate me to make more. Until then, see you later.